days like this.
Boo! It's that spectacular time of year again. Halloween! It's time for Halloween candies. Let's get dressed up for fun.
We're out here on Halloween to make new friends we've never seen. As I
Hello. I hope everyone is having a good evening so far. Kind of a quiet evening. I was going to come on and read some ghost stories, but having a hard time finding any that aren't like in a book. Hello, welcome in. I hope everybody's having a good night. Hey, everybody. Grease Plays. Robert, good to see you. Hi and bye. Okay, sounds good. Hope you hit the thumbs up before you leave. Anybody have any suggestion on a ghost story, or what's your favorite ghost story? Drop me a comment in the chat and let me know if you have a favorite ghost story. Or favorite. Do I live in San Diego? No, I don't live in San Diego. Never been to San Diego. The spooky, not too scary stories. One of them's called The Hairy Toe. An old woman finds a hairy toe in the woods and takes it home to eat. That night, a mysterious voice calls out looking for the toe. The thing at the foot of the bed. A man wakes up in terror at a strange thing at the foot of his bed. He overreacts instead of investigating, and the story suggests that the scary thing we imagine are just figments of his imagination. Haunted. A family moves into a haunted house, but the ghosts are friendly and just want to bake treats and have parties. The family is scared away, but a combination of shared interests, good conversation, and a bit of whiskey help to lay the ghosts to rest. All right, well, let's see if we can find one of these. If you know any stories, ghost stories, let me know and I'll look them up. Let's see here. All right, this one is called The Ghost of the Bloody Finger. Put a duck in the chat if you're ready for me to start reading The Ghost of the Bloody Finger. There was an old abandoned house in a small town that was considered, hey, Armin, I don't know how to say that, I'm sorry, but good to see you. G's Plays, I see you. Thanks for coming in. Make sure you guys hit that like button and sub up if you haven't already. I'd appreciate it. All right, and we're going to read this. This is just a little short ghost story. We're just going to read it. There was an old abandoned house in a small town that was considered haunted, and so everyone stayed away from it. One man came forward saying he is brave enough to spend the night alone in the house. As he prepares to go to bed in the haunted house, he hears a ghostly voice saying, I am the ghost of the bloody finger, and I'm at the front door. The man thinks it could be his imagination, and the sound could be the howling wind. But his voice gets, do I want to be your best friend? Sure. The man thinks it could be his imagination, and the sound could be of a howling wind. But the voice gets progressively louder as the ghost inches closer to him. I am in the front hall is followed by I am at the bottom of the stairs, and then I'm at the top of the stairs. Next, he hears the door creak. He covers his head with the blanket in fear. After a few minutes, the voice gently and sociably says, I am the ghost of the bloody finger. Do you have a Band-Aid? All right, how was that one? Anybody else have a ghost story? Used to sit around the campfire telling ghost stories, or at a sleepover or a slumber party telling ghost stories? How many people watch scary movies on Halloween? Or horror movies? I'm not into them. Maybe in my younger days. All right, this one is called The Big Toe. Once upon a time, an old woman found a big toe in the woods. She goes home and puts the toe in a stew and has the best meal in weeks. Unfortunately, around midnight, the toe's rather large and hairy owner comes to claim his toe. She hears the stomping sounds of heavy footsteps in her garden and the voice of a moaning creature saying, hairy toe, I want my hairy toe. The voice gets louder and louder. Finally, she sees a massive, phantasmal creature in her doorway. Terrified, she shouts, I ate your hairy toe. The giant comes into the room and says softly, I know you did. No one saw the old woman ever again, and apart from footprints with a big missing toe in her garden, there were no clues of her disappearance. All right, this one's called The Ball Pit. Let me know in chat if you're enjoying these so far. A mother takes her 3-year-old son out to lunch. Then he goes off to play in the ball pit. After about 10 minutes, he emerges wailing and complaining of pain. She rushes him to the ER to discover he has been bitten by a snake, of all things. The next day, she returns to the restaurant to complain about the snake bite to the manager. The manager tells her she should consider herself lucky as a child got bitten by a shark in the ball pit last week. All right, that was kind of silly. Welcome in, everybody. Hit that thumbs up if you don't mind. All right, this one's called Coffin. If anybody has any suggestions on ghost stories, let me know. One night, a man crosses the local cemetery while walking back home. As he passes the gates, he hears a sound, but he doesn't dare to turn around. The bumping noise follows him. Then he stops to look back. He finds a coffin coming down the road, bumping from side to side. The coffin clunks along, going bump, 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 and follows him to his house. He hides in the bathroom. When the coffin bursts into the bathroom, he grabs the first thing he can find, a bottle of cough syrup. He throws it at the coffin, and the coffin stops. That was pretty funny. All right, this one's called Yellow Ribbon. Jane, a young lady, always wears a yellow ribbon around her neck. She never tells anyone, not even her husband, why she wears it. One day, when she was on her deathbed, her husband asked her one last time about it. She agrees to let him see for herself. He nervously unties the yellow ribbon with his trembling hands and is horrified to find his wife losing her head. All right, this one is called Dim Bones. Set in New Jersey, the lore tells about the notorious pirate Captain Kidd and his crew, who buried their stolen loot in a secluded stretch of land on the Jersey coast while escaping from the law. The valuables disappeared overnight, never to be found despite the efforts of many treasure hunters, and then appeared dim bones. Dim bones are the glowing skeletons of Captain Kidd and his mates who return on a certain night. They carry heavy trunks full of their treasure and scatter them all around the place. A phantom fire is lit, and they celebrate by dancing, singing, and exchanging stories about their high sea sailing days. All right. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. The Lady with the Emerald Ring. A woman became deathly sick the night before Halloween. Before the doctor could reach her, she dies. The husband fails to attend the funeral due to grief. The vicar buries her. This greedy vicar decides to cut off her finger and steal the emerald ring in the dead of the night. And here comes a twist. The woman was in a coma and not dead. She jumps out of the coffin due to the pain caused by the severing of the finger. It scares the vicar out of his wits. He runs for his life and falls into a ditch. The woman goes back to her husband, who thinks she is a ghost of his wife. The woman tells her husband the whole story, and they live happily ever after. Okay. Give me just 1 second here. It looks like, and this is changing the subject, it looks like there is an active shooter in Lincoln University. 5 people have been shot. That's not good. All right, well, let's see here. Welcome in, everyone. Good to see you.
He's walking forward, digging the sounds. Eagle on stage, backed by his main hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive. And the vocal group, the Crypt the Monster Mash.
The Monster Mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
They played the mash.
The moon's full, the air is still. All of a sudden, I feel a chill. Victor's grinning, flesh is rotting away. Skeletons dance, I curse this day. And in the night when the wolves cry out, listen close and you can hear me shout. I don't wanna be hold hands and wonder if you'll ever see the sun. You close your eyes and hope that this is just imagination. Girl, but all the while you hear a creature creeping up behind. You're out of time, 'cause this is thriller, thriller night. There ain't no second chance against the thing with the 40 eyes, girl. Like getting to swallow places, be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building.
Doing the werewolves of London. I saw a werewolf with a pina colada at Trader Vic's. His hair was perfect. Ow, werewolves of London.
All right, let's get back to some more stories. That was just a little break there. Let's see. I don't know where I was. Hello, welcome in. All right. Gonna sorry, I lost my place here. Okay. This is called The Cabin. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself. Something he was not very used to. The whole day was normal. Trees and bushes engulfed his surroundings. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was until he was making his way back to his car. He figured an 8-hour hike was long enough. The sky was already getting dark and he needed to get back fast. What was odd was how much he didn't recognize the trail back. He began to panic. Night had already taken over, and all he had was his flashlight and no clue how to get back. He knew it was already too late and too dangerous to keep going through the forest. He began to worry that he would have no shelter for the night when, almost luckily enough, he stumbled across a broken-down cabin. It was dark, and it seemed like no one had visited it in years, but he knew it was the only place where he could rest until daylight, especially since his flashlight was running out of battery. He knocked on the door a few times, but no one answered, so he let himself in, where, strangely enough, a perfect bed fitted for one person awaited him in the center. He knew that if the owner came back, he could explain himself. He was sure that the owner wouldn't mind, or was even probably dead. So he went ahead and got himself comfortable in bed. As he tried to sleep, he couldn't ignore the collection of paintings around the room. Portraits of strange-looking people all peering at him, each wearing a smile that sent chills up his spine. Not too long after, his exhaustion from the hike got the best of him, and he was able to ignore the faces. The next morning, he got up early and was shocked to see that there were no paintings around the room but windows. Wow. I don't think I would be sleeping in an abandoned cabin. All right, this one's called the red wristband. A doctor was working at a hospital where the patients were tagged with colored bands: green alive, red deceased. One night, the doctor was instructed to get a few supplies from the basement of the hospital, and so he headed to the lift. The lift doors opened, and there was a patient inside minding her own business. Patients were allowed to roam around the hospital to stretch, especially those who have stayed long. The rule was to be back in their rooms before 10. The doctor smiled at the patient before pressing the number to the basement. He found it unusual that the woman didn't have a button already pressed. He wondered if she was heading to the basement too. The lift finally reached the floor where the doors opened. In the distance, a man was limping towards the elevator, and in a panic, the door slammed the elevator button to close. It finally did, and the lift began to ascend back up, the doctor's heart pounding. "Why did you do that?" "He was trying to use the lift," the woman stated ignorantly. "Did you see his wristband?" the doctor said. "It was red. He died last night." "I wouldn't know because I did his surgery." The woman lifted up her wrist. He saw red. She smiled. "Like this one?" Did anybody not see that one coming? White with red is the next story. A man just moved into an apartment and heads to the receptionist to get to his keys. The receptionist gave him the key with a smile, but he warned him not to disturb the door with no number on his floor. He wondered why, but didn't bother to ask. He was too busy with his new apartment to care. After he finished unpacking, he began to get curious. He questioned why the receptionist would warn him of such things, and so he stepped out of his apartment to check the door with no number. He tried the doorknob first, but it was locked. So instead, he got onto his knees and peeked through the keyhole. The apartment was empty. His eyes scanned the whole place before stopping at a woman standing faced against a wall in the corner. He noticed her pale skin and long black hair before stepping back. Suddenly, feeling in a way for invading someone else's privacy, he brushed it off, assuming she was someone that did not want to be disturbed. The next day, he got more curious about the woman and eventually went back. Straight away, getting into his knees, he peeked through the keyhole and saw all red. Red, he assumed that was the pale woman must have caught him peeking the last time and covered the hole with something red. He left the door alone and instead went down to the reception to ask her questions. Excuse me. The receptionist sighed and asked, "You looked through the keyhole, didn't you?" He admitted to it, and so she felt obliged to tell him the story. She told him that a couple used to live in that apartment a long time ago, but the husband went crazy and killed his wife. However, the couple weren't normal. They had pale skin and black eyes, and they had pale skin, black hair, red eyes. A daughter was in her room upstairs doing her homework when suddenly she heard her mother call to come down for dinner. She jumped onto her feet and began making her way towards the stairs, but before she even took a step, hands grabbed her and pulled her into the laundry room beside their staircase. She panicked before realizing it was her mother, her real mother, eyes watery and bloodshot. Go down there. Don't go down there. I heard it too. All right. Anybody have any ghost stories that they'd like to share? Want me to look up and read? I will be happy to do it. These are all kids' ghost stories or funny ghost stories. They're not like those are ones written by kids. That's pretty cool. All right, let's see. All right. A young teen was babysitting for a family that is very, very wealthy. In a large mansion filled with huge number of rooms and a vast number of interesting antiques and artifacts. Strangely, though, the father mentions to the girl that once the children are put to sleep for the night, the girl should only go to the basement and not spend time in any other rooms of the house. She could watch television down there and was free to do anything else in the basement, but the rest of the house was off limits. She goes to the basement once the children are in bed, but quickly notices a large clown statue in the corner of the room. It appears to be staring at her. She continues to watch her show, but can't shake the feeling that the statue is following her around the room with its eyes. She puts a blanket over the statue eventually in an effort to make herself feel more comfortable, and then telephones the father of the children to ask if she can go and move to another room of the house because she's so freaked out by the clown. You need to leave now. We don't own a clown statue. The children have been telling us they've been seeing a clown in their room in the night, and we thought they were having nightmares. Take the children and get out. The young girl hangs up the phone terrified. She turns around, but the statue is gone, leaving behind only the blanket on the floor. All right, this one is The Hitchhiker That Never Was. A girl in a pretty white dress and embroidered sweater flags down an old man for a ride. He gives her a ride to her great-grandmother's house, and they have a lovely conversation, talking about the old days, and the elderly man shares some great stories with her. He drops her off at her grandmother's house, and he goes home. The following day, when he gets into his car to pick up some milk and a paper, he realizes the sweater is still in the car. He swings by the young girl's grandmother's house to drop off the sweater, and her grandmother answers the door. He explains why he's there. I'm sorry, sir. I think you have the wrong address. My great-granddaughter died many, many, many years ago wearing her favorite white dress after a night out dancing. All right, this one is called The Hook. One night, a teenage boy and his girlfriend headed to their local lover's lane so they could spend some time alone together. The girl was a little bit afraid because on that day she'd heard over the radio of a man who had been released from a local insane asylum known as the Hook. His hand had been mangled in an accident and he had it replaced with a hook because there were no prosthetics available at the time. The night was dark and the teenagers cuddled up together. Another announcement was made over the radio to warn people about the Hook and to stay vigilant, and the young girl pulled away from the boy scared, asking him if they could go home. Just then, the car started to shake and the doors rattled. The teens peered outside but couldn't see anyone outside. The car shook vigorously again once more, and the boy decided it was time to leave, and so they sped away. On the way home from their date, the couple stopped off at a late-night diner for some coffee and chicken. Once they got out of the car, what did they see? Long scratches down the sides of the car and a hook stuck in the middle of the car door. I think everybody's heard a version of that one before. This one is called The Ghostly Maid. Once upon a time, a man and a boy who had lost their wife and mother moved into a new house. They were told by the locals in the village that the house was haunted, but neither the man nor the boy believed in ghosts, and they moved into the house quite happily. The child went downstairs and asked the maid of the home for a glass of water and some fruit, and she happily obliged. She also told the boy that there could be ghosts. Later that day, the little boy struck up a conversation with his father. "Daddy, I've been thinking. I could believe in ghosts. The maid told me there might be ghosts in the house." "Son, we don't have a maid. We need to leave." This one is called Mr. Sullivan. On a cold winter day, Mr. Sullivan came home. Walking alongside the edge of the road, he walked over to a woman and asked her for some help, only for her to scream loudly at the mere sight of him and run away in fear. Astonished at her response, Mr. Sullivan continued his way and tried to flag down several passing cars, only for them all to speed up as soon as they saw him. He eventually called a taxi company, and when they arrived, they looked at him and they too sped away. The man went back to the same phone booth and called his wife, wanting to know what on earth was going on and why people seemed to be so afraid of him. A man answered the phone in a voice he didn't recognize. "Unfortunately, Mrs. Sullivan isn't available at the moment. She's at her husband's funeral. He died in a car accident last night." Finally, Mr. Sullivan found his way to the public bathroom. He looked in the mirror and found his face bloodied and bruised, his skin a mess, and his bones broken. His skin was pale and his eyes bloody. He realized why everyone was so reluctant to stop for him. He was dead. He was a ghost. All right. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, I would appreciate it. Thanks everybody for being here. Leave me a comment. If you're watching me on replay, leave a comment and let me know if you're enjoying this little scary story, ghost story. Let's see. That's not what we want. Does anybody have a story to share? Or a particular story or anybody have a scary story or a story that you might have told when you were a kid at a sleepover? right, well, let's see. All right, let's see if we can find some jokes here. Why was the jack-o'-lantern afraid? Anybody know? Why was the jack-o'-lantern afraid? Because it had no guts. Which monster plays tricks on Halloween? Which monster plays tricks on Halloween? Frankenstein. Why are graveyards so noisy? Why are graveyards so noisy? Because of all the coughing. Why did the skeleton show up to the party by himself? Why did the skeleton show up to the party by himself? He had nobody to go with. Get it? Nobody to go with. What's a mummy's favorite music? What's a mummy's favorite music? Rap. How do you make a skeleton laugh? How do you make a skeleton laugh? You tickle his funny bone. What does a skeleton say before dinner? What does a skeleton say before dinner? Bon appetit. How do you know when a ghost is sad? How do you know when a ghost is sad? He starts boo-hooing. Which vampire is the best at math? Which vampire is the best at math? Count Dracula. What's the name for witches who live together? What's the name for witches who live together? Broommates. What do you say when you meet a two-headed monster? What do you say when you meet a two-headed monster? Hello, hello. What's a baby ghost favorite game? What's a baby ghost favorite game? Peekaboo. Where do ghosts go to trick or treat? Where do ghosts go to trick or treat? Dead ends. Who does Frankenstein go trick or treating with? Who does Frankenstein go trick or treating with? His ghoul friend. Why was the jack-o'-lantern so forgetful? Why was the jack-o'-lantern so forgetful? Because he was empty-headed. How do you fix a broken jack-o'-lantern? How do you fix a broken jack-o'-lantern? With a pumpkin patch. Anybody know what the story of the jack-o'-lantern? It's actually an old story. Maybe I'll tell it next time. What does a pumpkin like to read? What does a pumpkin like to read? What does a pumpkin like to read? Pulp fiction. Why can't skeletons play music in church? Why can't skeletons play music at church? They have no organs. What does a skeleton order at a restaurant? What do skeletons order at a restaurant? Spare ribs. Why are skeletons so calm? Why are skeletons so calm? Because nothing gets under their skin. Why didn't the skeleton cross the road? Why didn't the skeleton cross the road? He didn't have any guts. What musical instrument does a skeleton play? What musical instrument does a skeleton play? The trombone. Why didn't the skeleton go to school? Why didn't the skeleton go to school? He just wasn't into it, huh? Oh, his heart wasn't into it. Okay, his heart wasn't into it. What do old skeletons complain about? What do old skeletons complain about? Aching bones. Who won the skeleton beauty contest? Who won the skeleton beauty contest? Nobody. All right. Last one. What does a witch use to do her hair? What does a witch what does a witch use to do her hair? Scare spray. All right, last one, I promise, because I've been on 45 minutes and that's usually my limit. Why was the broom so late? Why was the broom so late? It overswept. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your comments, for your likes. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate it. You're watching it on replay. Leave me a comment. And I will be posting some more videos soon. I hope everyone has a good evening, and I will catch you guys later. Thanks, guys.